Today we got The Red Badge of Courage by Stephen Crane, which is probably, out of all the books I have, the one I've had the longest. I remember getting this in 6th grade and trying to read it, and couldn't get past the first chapter, and I put it down. It was during the time when I was super into American history and the Civil War, and I really wanted to know more. And I thought that I could read out of my reading level because I wanted to be smart, but come to find out I couldn't. But this little cheap copy actually has some glue or something all over it, but yeah, I finally got to it, which I'm happy with. This year I've been able to get to a lot of books that I tried reading in like middle school and high school that I wasn't ready for, including like the Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court. I got to that. That was another book that I tried to read in middle school and I wasn't ready for. But anyways, going on to this, was written in 1893 or 5, in the 1890s, so 30 years after the Civil War. This was written. And a little bit about the author, Stephen Crane. He was born in 1871, died in 1900. He was only 28 when he passed. He's the 9th child of a New Jersey family. He published a few articles by the time he was 16. He went to Syracuse University but ended up leaving. In 1893 he wrote Maggie, a Girl in the Streets. And then in 1895 he wrote this. But I read Maggie in college and I really liked it, and I didn't even know it was Stephen Crane, honestly, until I was looking into this, but I actually really enjoyed that story in college. It's one of the ones I remember. Maggie, a Girl of the Streets, is also considered the first American naturalism book, and Stephen Crane is known for his realism and naturalism over pretty much everything else. But after he wrote this, he only wrote a few other things, one including The Open Boat, after experience of ship sinking. He also was friends with Joseph Conrad and H.G. Wells. I always find it really fascinating when authors are friends with other authors. I love learning about little book groups like, Mary Shelley, The Lost Generation in the 1920s, and you have like the Beat Generation in the 1960s. So if anybody else has author groups that they can give me suggestions for, I love looking into that stuff, so let me know. I also know that like Tolkien and C.S. Lewis are friends. Just like any type of relationships like that, I really enjoy learning about. He died of tuberculosis, which was really common, which I'm reading Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte right now, and like all of her sisters, including herself, all died from tuberculosis. So definitely a very serious disease around that time. They wrote their books in the 1860s though. But yeah, so he was known for his distinctive dialects, his realism, his naturalism, like I said, dealing with themes of fear, spiritual crisis, and social isolation. He made impressions on modernist writers such as Ernest Hemingway, who's one of my favorite authors. And a little bit about this book. So obviously it's about the Civil War. It's about the experience of Civil War, and the main character, the protagonist, is Henry Fleming, who mainly goes by the Youth throughout the novel, which just kind of represents, the naivety of, young people going to war for glory and fighting and honor and bravery and everything that they've learned growing up, and then coming to the reality of just how brutal and psychologically messed up it can be, and and everything that comes with it that no one really thought about. And this book, I was reading all the videos because I actually listened to this on audiobook on YouTube. It's free, which I highly suggest. It's a really good book to listen to with all the dialects and all the accents and everything, and and the characters. It just really brought it to life. But where was I going with this? But yeah, it's mainly like a lot of the comments on YouTube and stuff. The book was just talking about how boring this book is, and most of the comments were people from high school, so I kind of get it. I feel like this book isn't really for younger people. It's mainly for people older, especially when it's just like, and I really like realism, so I like them just like not really doing anything, them just hanging around camps, like actually experiencing it. Like this isn't a story, like this isn't an experience. So if you want to experience what it's like to go through the Civil War and what it would be like, then this is the book to read. And after all of that, it was just like hailed for its realism and like what it was actually like and what war and everything was really like. And he never had experience in war. He wrote this when he was 23 and never stepped on the battlefield, which is absolutely insane. But I really like during like bouts of chaos, he really notices like these strange details, like a flower or like a bee or something like that, while all this chaos is going on, and are like really related to that because anytime I'm in like a high stress situation, I always notice these very strange things, wondering if like anyone else does during like high times of stress or anything like that. So overall, like I gave this a 5 out of 5. I probably won't reread it. I might though when I'm older, but it was a really, really cool book. Like it's kind of exactly what I wanted out of it. Even though I try to go into some books without any expectations, this gave me everything I really needed with this book, and I highly suggest it. So if you want to experience, the 1860s and what the Civil War was like, and just war at that time, then I definitely would read this. A lot of people complain it's boring, so it's a lot of waiting around and then short bursts of like excitement, which that was the reality of war at the time. But a few other things. Yeah, it also brings out like the reality of just like getting shot is like one of the few ways that you'd actually die. During war, there's the disease, exhaustion, starving, dehydration, lack of supplies, the cold, the winter, everything that surrounds that is almost more dangerous than the fighting itself. And it's just surviving the time that it takes for the war to be over. But, but yeah, so I think I mentioned everything that I wanted to. It's not a very long book. It's not even 200 pages. It's like 170. The audiobook's like 4.5 hours on YouTube. It's free. Definitely suggest it. But yeah, thanks for listening. Peace.